Testing, testing. Testing, testing. All right, a little background noise. Just getting everything started, organizing myself, and then we will start working on some code. All right, I think I got everything set up. I just wanted to play some music, and I'm gonna put that on my own headphones. Where's my music? What did I want to listen to? All right. Actually, you know what? Let's do it on my time capsule. That seems interesting. Wow, every song I played. Audio slaves, all right. We can do some audio slave. Why not? So, special weekend edition. Um, let's hide all this stuff. I'm going to. I guess I'm going to build a spawner. Let's see. Here's my workspace. Let me remove this. Remove from sidebar. What do I want to build here? Let's take a look at where we left off. So we should probably build out the rest of the. We should build out the rest of the enemies and get that going. Adam. I'm going to. Let's back everything up. Let's back up the sandbox, compress, and we're going to call this Jump in, Shoot Man, New V2. And I think where we left off was I had some bad guys that I wanted to build out. Let me add. What we'll do here is add animations for all enemies. Spawn bullets. We could do some bullet spawning, some basic stuff like that. So let's start by setting the speed to 0 and taking a look at where we are with this. So we had that snake guy who's going the wrong direction. In fact, we can set this to true to make him go the opposite direction. So we got our snake. The next thing I wanted to do, let's take a look here at our sprites and see what other enemies we had. So we have this hardhead guy. I feel like I need to make his animations the same as... Yeah, let's open that up in Photoshop, and we'll just move that around just a little bit here. So here are our sprite. Actually, you know what we can do? I'm going to rename this to just sprites, PSD, so it saved me one last thing for writing. And I got to take off my sweater. It's actually like warm in my office today. All right, so let's go in here. I just wanted to change the animation order for this guy. In fact, this, I guess I didn't. Did I? I never changed it. I can go in and fix this. I do have it saved as the sprite image. I just didn't change it in the PSD. I basically flipped everything around and reorganized it. So what I want to do is let's move all of these animation pieces over to here. These are the slices in Photoshop. And then I'm just going to, I want to match up this guy's animation with how the player is set up. And a big part of what I'm trying to do is just get this to be a, consistent template. So I'm going to use this template and the other stuff moving forward for all the art packs. And my goal for Pixelvision 8 is to have each of the art packs would basically be, each of the art packs would be its own tutorial. To idle. So we'll drag these slices over, and I had a fall and jump. So, all right, that works. This should be fall and this is jump. All right, so we'll move that there. I think some other things we can wind up adding in are like disappearing platforms and other things like that. What I want to get is I want to basically get all of these things working. I was just trying to look into something. What I needed to get at some point was I needed to get one extra I need to get one extra frame here. So I need to make this guy 16 by 16. There really isn't anywhere where I can make that work. All right, well, we'll just leave it at this for right now. Let's merge this down, save it. We need to save out a new PNG. And let's, whoops, document is currently open. Please save in a different name. All right, let's save this as a PNG. And let's save out all the sprites to the sprite builder folder. Use these sprites. All right, that should be good. Where's my drink? My wife told me like a really funny joke, and like my throat's like hurting from laughing. I was like trying to drink something while she told me the joke, and I didn't want my vitamin water to like come out my nose, so it hurt. All right, so this is good. This is good. Let's refresh this and just see if it cuts up the sprites correctly. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to build out this little guy. The only problem with him is I don't have his, since we don't have the physics engine working, we don't have jump. But let's see if we can get, let's see if we can just get all of this stuff working. I wonder if there's a more creative way that I could lay this out so that it gets the empty pixels. Nope, I don't know. All right, so this isn't. I didn't pack the sprites in an efficient way. I did it more so that you can like visually at least see what they look like. All right, so let's just get this dude running. We'll add in jump later. We got the snake. We'll get this guy running. We'll add in these turrets. And then maybe what we'll do is we'll start looking into how to do shooting logic. All right, so that being said, the thing we want to start with is, I think that guy was called Hardhead or something. Cool, did I delete all that crap? Perfect. All right, let's see. Configure entity snake. We don't need this. He has a speed. He has his rect. Oh, you know what I want to do real quick? I wanted to fix something with the map generator. What I wanted to do here was find next template, update map template. I don't think I don't know if I use time delta here to calculate anything. No, all right. So what it was yesterday, one of the problems I was running into is that Pixelvision 8 at its core just uses ints. But there's only one place where I take floats, and that's on time on update. And I was trying to get the math to work correct so I can use some internal values, but it wasn't, I think I fixed all that. Because this doesn't really care about that. All it needs to do is it knows the last tile. All right, that's fine. All right, so we have the entity manager. I'm just trying to take an inventory of what I did yesterday. We're able to remove entities. We have a global entity. We take the display. All right. So let's start adding some new bad guys. Basically, the way that we need to do that is I'm going to copy this snake, and we're going to call this guy entity hardhead. And his animations are going to be, there should be a hard head 1, 2, and 3. hard head walk 2. Oh, I need to rebuild the sprite layer. There we go. All right, so I'm just going to change the layout of this so that it's easier to see that we're configuring the animation like this. So we do hard head walk 1, hard head walk 2, and hard head walk 3. He's going to have the basic same move logic, which all it does is it just takes the speed and the direction. We don't need this counter. I was trying to think if there's a. I was trying to think if there's a. I wonder if we can entity manager. Let's do function. We'll do entity. So I'm just gonna make a generic method here called move entity, and we don't need this, and we don't need this. All we need to do is change data. We'll do this in the selection and replace all. So what I'm basically doing is we're going to create a generic way to move the entity so we don't have to do this on every single one. So move entity data. And in fact, I want to replace the word data with entity everywhere here so it's more consistent. And we'll do move entity. I might actually, I don't know if this is going to be part of the main manager. I might just put this in here. So we'll just call this like common helper methods, right? And what we could do with this now is basically every time we want to make an entity move, we're just going to simply share this method or call this method between all these other guys. Let's see if the snake should still work or break. Code entity 6. Right, we need the time delta. So when we move an entity, we'll pass the time delta, and we'll pass in the time delta. So now it's just going to look on any entity, and if there is a speed and a direction, it's going to move it in that direction. So if we were to create this new hardhead guy, you'll see it's like pretty easy now just to create new entities as we need them. So here we'll spawn a new hardhead, and you'll see he just walks by. So I think we got like a pretty decent enough system in place to build this stuff out. I don't think there's anything else that I would do. Although I would say, you know what the player should do is on player update, have him move, just have him move itself. And then in here, I can get rid of this move code. Like what we would do is we would update the entities. So since the player is going to move himself, we're good to go. So update entities, we're going to do the, we'll get the scroll position. I don't think we need this. Where's map and the entity thing where we call update entities? I don't think we need scroll position anymore. Bounds X. Oh, we do. All right, so we'll update the scroll position. We'll update the entities. So this is going to always be like a frame behind where the player should be. Entity code entities 6. What? Move entity. Alright, that's weird. Why is it all of a sudden the player is not moving? I think I need to give him a speed. Right, the player doesn't have a speed. Alright, there we go. So now the player is going to move. We'll make him move at a speed of 2. And then the other stuff will move at its own speed. Alright, so by default we're going to set its speed to that, but what we're going to do here is do player dot speed equals 0. Stop the player for debugging and test entity spawning. All right, so that basically just stops the player. So whenever we want to stop the player, we would just do this. Doesn't look like a lot of people are watching today. It's Saturday. It's like nice outside too. People should probably be outside. Oh no, it says, it's funny. Twitch says that there's actually more people watching, but I'm using Restream. Oh, now it's updated, of course, after I just went to Twitch. So there are people watching. If you're watching, say hi. You don't have to be, don't be a stranger. All right, so he's not moving. We added the hard head guy. The next thing I want to do is we're going to add a more complicated bad guy. The one thing I want to do though is well, we'll leave the hard head guy as it is. The next entity that I want to get going is these sort of 2 turret things. So I'm just trying to think of how to do this. I'm almost debating. Sorry, I had a really bad sneeze. Saved you guys from that sneeze. I was wondering if I should just pull out this knight guy and just make this thing the turret. I don't know. Let's just do this regular turret thing. So what I want to do is we're going to create a new entity, and we don't need this. We're going to call this hidden turret, and this one's going to be one of the more complicated ones that we build. He's going to have 3 animations, but what we're going to do is we're going to skip this whole animation system. Well, what we could do is I wonder if there's a way to, let's take a look at something. Lua reverse array order. Function for reversing a table order. Is there no like Lua table sort alphabetically? I love that Lua has nothing. Like literally has absolutely nothing. For information on Lua sort table, take a look at this. Sort. If you want to print these functions, you traverse the table in pairs. The name pairs are an arbitrary order. However, you cannot sort them directly because the names are the keys. Pairs by keys. Is there no freaking sort? Oh, Lua. Nasty little language. Okay, so let's do this. What I'm trying to think right now is there are basically different animation states, and I haven't decided how I want to animate this thing. So the idea behind the way that this turret works is that it'll wait, it'll pop up, it'll shoot, and then it'll go back down and hide. So I kind of have like a hacky way of doing this. What we could do is just add a bunch of frames for the delay and then test to see when we hit a certain frame and then shoot. Let's try that. This is like not like usually I would do this programmatically, but what I'm trying to keep in mind is that if you're new to learning how to program, this might actually be kind of like a fine enough way to hack something together. I mean, I'm all about finding the most elegant solution to the problem. So what we'll do is we have hidden turret 1, 2, and 3. So what I'm thinking is this. Let's go to the entities. I'm going to build animation, right? And what we want is we're going to create a local frames equals, and we'll have a table like this. And in this table, we're going to add turret 2 and turret 3. And then we're going to do some loop stuff. So first off, add pause to add hidden frames. And we're going to do we'll just do 10 for right now. This will be fine. This will give you sort of an example. This is like a really kind of hacky yet clever way to do it, I guess. What we would do is table, insert, and we're going to do frames. Well, actually, we're just going to write, we'll do hidden turret 1. And we're going to put this into frames. And we're going to do this at 0. Which I think is how, I think you can do this. Let's go and build out, what we don't need on update is this. Let's remove this. And let's create a hidden turret. Where are we? 87. Code entities Lua 87. Code entities 87. Doesn't like my insert frames idea. Table. Frames, hidden turret. So why don't we do it this way? We'll create we'll create empty frames, and then we're just going to call insert. Although I do feel like, hold on, Lua table insert. I feel like there was a way to To insert the other end of the structure, we use table I want X. All right, I think I know what the problem was. I did 0 because I'm an idiot, and let's actually do it this way. Insert 1 and 2. Wait, this should be 2. This should be 3. And we'll we're gonna set this to 1. That was the problem. So basically, what we're doing is we're adding in the hidden frames, and we're gonna add in 10 hidden frames. And this 10 frames is gonna give us that delay, right? Add shown, add visible frames. Right, and then what we'll do is at the end of this, we are going to add 3 frames where it's visible, and then we're going to reverse this back down. Add frame to hide. Like, I'm trying to debate if this is easier to do this way or if it's going to confuse the hell out of people. But let's even see if this works. So what we're doing is we're like dynamically building out an animation set, but we're using repeating frames to add a delay into the animation. So instead of having like tons and tons of code everywhere to be like, hey, what's this state? What's this state? Let's switch this state. Let's go to these animations. All we're basically doing is just adding in buffer. So 81, I just got to get this stuff working correctly. Unexpected symbol near, right, we need to make this a comma. And 86, bad argument number 2 to table insert number expected got a table. All right, see how it pops up? First off, I noticed there's a little bit of a so here's how we do the delay, right? Let's do this 20. Let's make this 6, and then watch this. So now all we need to do is if we want to add more of a delay, we just simply change the loop, and we'll make him visible. We'll leave him visible for 6. There's one thing that I noticed though in the image is that this needs to be flipped. So image, edit, transform, flip, horizontal. We'll save this, and we should actually save this in the PSD. I don't know why I have this. I don't know why I have that open. Image, transform, edit, transform, flip horizontally. There we go. All right, so let's retry this again. And now we'll see he'll pop up and he'll hide. So he'll pop up, he'll shoot, and then he'll hide. Pop up, shoot, and then hide. Perfect. So, there are some things that we can do to make that a little bit better, but I think for the most part, that's all we really need to do. We'll just leave we'll leave this empty we'll leave it empty on update for right now. So build base animation, add hidden frames, add visible frames, add frame to hide, and then we're done. See, look at how clever that is. Versus like a whole bunch of conditions and like swapping out animation sets and all kinds of crazy crap. All we do is just add some frames or remove some frames, and we use the built-in animation system. All right, so the next one that I want to get going is actually I want to fix something. Do I have a tile map yet? Let me go here. I just wanted to move this up. There we go. That'll look a little bit better. Because now what'll happen is that I wanted to do some I wanted to do some animations for this. And now at least the player isn't there. So what we'll get is what we should do is the player idle animation. Well, all right, we'll figure that out. I just want to do like a bunch of little GIFs that just sort of showed off each of these animation states. So we got that. We have, we can do snake. And we can do, in fact, what I want to do is see if I can get, if I set the snake to 160, which is off screen, will he still move forward? So what I need to set him to is 155. Should be off screen. Good morning. Nope, didn't like that idea. All right, so one thing I just noticed, I feel like our remove code is a little bit too aggressive. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to add some buffer to this thing. Let's do local border equals, we'll do 16 pixels on either side. And what I'm thinking is that basically if we plus add border, what we're looking for is if we set this guy off screen by 160, let's even just set it to 8. 8's a good border, right? Let's just quickly print out what the display X, display Y, terminal. Shouldn't be updating anything. All right, let's see here. So what we're trying to do is, I just want to see what the size of the display is. Oh, I see what I have at updating entities. It should be, yeah, let's get rid of that. If you're just tuning in, basically what I'm doing is I'm just going through and adding all of the bad guys, but what I wanted to do is 152 by 136. So I'm not using the correct dimensions for the display. There we go. All right. If you just call display on its own, it only returns the visible display. By passing in false, it tells it to ignore. It tells you to give you the actual real resolution. And what I wanted to do was add, basically I would take the border, the new rect would be negative border, and this would be border plus 2. In essence, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get the bounds to be a little bit past the edge of the screen, so that if we wanted to spawn stuff off screen, we would have a little bit more buffer to create some stuff. I would almost do it at 16. So let's see. It would be -8 on one side, -16 on one side, +16, right, +32 on the other. So let's take a look at what the bounds are here. So this is the display, and this is the bounds. All right, so let's see what our values are here. So so basically what would happen is I think this is too high. Well, let me see here. Calculator 160 plus 16 is 176. Let's do this. Border, we'll just leave it at 1. Or at its own value. So when we refresh this now, right, so the safe zone for spawning something off screen is going to be -16 of the current X position and 176. So that means if we spawn this guy at this is going to become important later when we do the spawner. So if we did like 170, for example, he should still be, the snake should still come out at you. Perfect. We need that buffer because what's going to happen is as the screen is scrolling, we want to make sure that if something spawns off the screen, it has enough time to make it to us. And we'll probably go back and tweak this boundary a little bit later. But what we need to make sure, though, is that we take into account when we come in here and we update our bounds, we want to subtract the border. And that will give us the correct X position every frame for the bounds X. Right? Let's just double check that. Or not. All right, so it should be the same. Why was that guy not spawning? Huh? What the hell? Did I break something? 150, 160. Now all of a sudden it's not working right? I swear this was all working a minute ago. All right, so that works. So what changed? That I take the scroll position X, which should be 0, minus bounds. $59. What border? if it intersects with this rect. So by adding minus border, all of a sudden it doesn't work. Oh, that's strange. That's not good. Why would that have an effect on it? Bounds X. Scroll position. What is going on my logic here? All right. Well, we're gonna save. We'll save some of this for the other stuff. Let's just do this as 160 and boom. Okay. So I'm like really confused as to why bounds all of a sudden, why border breaks it. What's going on? The other way that we could do this is if we didn't take into account the border, we would just know to spawn stuff on the... No, I couldn't do that. All right, I don't know what's going on with this. This is one of the... It's that afternoon lull where I can't really think clearly. Let's go and build out the next bad guy, and then we'll figure it out from there. So this is the one that I'm sort of on the fence about. Is how am I going to do this guy? Because he's not set up. His X and Y values aren't set up correctly. I wonder if I just pull out this tile and call it a day. That's probably the best thing to do. Trying to think if there's a cleaner way that I can get this going. What I need to do is I need to get this guy 16 by 16 so he's easier to cut out. Well, one thing is that this is repeated, so I don't need this. All right, let's do this. We're gonna get rid of this. We don't need that. These are unique, so we can move this over. Then, I feel like pulling that out. We'll put that right there for right now. So the thing is, I put this here. I put this here. I put this here. I was debating, like, do I put that there or move this here? Thinking I can do something like that. I mean, it's not like ideal because I'm trying to get everything to match up, but it's still clean enough that you can take a look at it and just get a sense of what needs to be moved around. Yeah, let's do that and fix the slices. Man, music selection is terrible today. I don't like this playlist at all. I was like trying to do like I have a time capsule which like plays a pretty decent like collection of hip hop and alternative music, but for some reason it decided it didn't feel like playing any hip hop. Whatever, let's do my Discovery Weekly thing and see what that does instead. All right, now I just got to go through and fix this. This was the spike ball, which is now here. This is a what is this thing called? This is a we'll call this a multi-cannon 2, and we'll set this up here as a multi-cannon 1. Is cannon, I can't remember, is cannon 2 ends? No. It is 2 ends. Canon. C-A-N-N. Oh my god, I'm such a bad speller. I don't even know why I'm so bad at spelling. It's just like part of my brain just doesn't give a shit. Like never really cared enough to think about spelling. Let's also make this a platform. I sort of had some ideas for this platform thing. I feel like this door thing also we should get working too at some point, but I don't know. We'll figure that out. Let's save this. Let's export all the images again into the Sprite Builder folder, and we're going to save this as a. We'll save this as the sprites PNG. All right, so our snake still spawns. Let's go, and we're going to build out this little cannon. So all this cannon's going to do, it's very similar to how we built the other guy where... does Lua have like a repeat function? Lua, repeat until loop. Repeat loop execution. Unlike the for and while loops, which test loop conditions at the top of the loop, the repeat until in loop checks the condition at the bottom of the loop. A repeat until loop is similar to a while loop, except that you do while loops is guaranteed the execution at least. Yeah, I don't like that. All right, I thought there was a like Lua repeat value. Nope. Okay. All right. So what did I call that dude? Multi-cannon, right? I don't know why I copied that. Let's do this. Let's come here to code entities. And we're going to create a new entity here, and we're going to call this config entity hidden turret. We're going to call this, we should just call this multi-turret. Actually, we're just going to call it a regular turret. This will just be a regular turret. And we'll fix the slices up. Turret 1. Turret 2. All right, so save out all of our sprite builder files and come back in. We'll rebuild the sprite database, and now we'll have our turret. We'll use turret. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna flip between these two animations. So we're gonna do something very similar, except here we're just gonna do turret 1, and we'll do this for 5 frames, and then here we'll do this for let's do this for 10 frames, and then we'll remove this. And all this is gonna do is it allows us to just loop through and create the turret, and then what we'll do is at a certain point we'll write a check to let you fire. I think what I'm going to do, I think my goal for today is just to get, I'll finish getting, I'll get all these little entities in, and then what we'll do is, I think we're just going to get shooting to work, because that should be pretty basic. And then we'll go from there. So we want to create a new turret. Let's add this to our test code. Okay. Our turret appears to be dead. Well, that's anticlimactic, huh? Here's why. We didn't save the PNG. So update that. I've already built out the sprites. We need to let's reload this and then rebuild the sprite database, and then go back to play. Oh, come on, man. SB sprites, turret. Turret 1, turret 2. Here we go. Turret 1 and turret 2. I was just adding the same animations. So there we go. So now what's going to happen is that it'll go through and it'll show that thing, and then it'll shoot out three bullets basically in different directions. And I'll have to figure out how to do that. I don't know how to do that kind of math. I mean, I shouldn't be too hard to figure out that math. It just, one thing I don't like is why there's this ramp thing on it. Like, I feel like it should be, I don't know, I'll ask Andrew. I'm not sure. I feel like it should be like this. All right, so let's update the PNG. Let's save out the new sprites, and we'll update the sprite database, and then it should look good. What we need to do is, in the code, we don't really need to worry about whether it's facing left or right. It just is. Where is this? So boom. So I think that's sort of the approach that I'm going for, is if you want to add more frames, instead of adding like a lot of code for just doing some sort of, instead of adding some code for doing like what frame, how long, the delay, should we show this animation, should we swap out animations and stuff. In this case, all we're just going to do is just basically change the number of frames. So if we did here a hidden turret, and we set this to like 136 or something, that might be a little too far off screen. 120. So what we want to avoid, though, the only thing that's going to make this a little bit weird is that if we had multiple versions of them, like here, let's do this. So now I think the next thing I want to just do is I'll show you how, like, all right, so let's say we set this to 80, right? 100. And we don't want them to always show up at the same time, right? This sort of makes them a little weird. Make this 140. So watch. Because they're now sharing the same sort of basic, actually, let me set this to 70, 90, 110, 130. If you're just tuning in, I'm just building out some basic enemies for Jump and Shoot Man as I rebuild the game, which is something I built from Lunadari. So what we want is, we want these guys to be a little bit more random, right? So one of the things that we can do to make that happen is we can start at a different point in the animation. So for example, here, what we would do is if we take a look at our animation manager, what the animation manager does is it takes a look at a value for, here's where we set up our animation, right? We look at the current frame. So we could do something like this. Configure entity, hardhead, configure entity hidden turret. We now have a, we have 15 frames of empty space. So at the very end, what we can do is pick a random frame to start on. And this is something that I wanted to, Alaise, I wish he was on the stream. I wanted to show him this because he's been asking how you start something at a random frame. So what we would do here is math.random, and we would simply pass in 1 to 15, right? And now let's take a look at what happens. So we're basically telling the frame to start randomly, and it's not doing anything. Maybe it's not random enough. Oh, I know why. We need to set this to entity.frame. All right, so this will give us a little bit more randomness. Come on. I love it when it makes me look like I'm like this full of shit. Oh, I know why. What happens is that we configure the animation. We need to do it here. So then we're going to pick a random frame because it would just automatically set frame to 0. So you'll see it's not the best. There we go. That's a little bit. So I mean, again, it's going to be random, right? So there are other things that we could do that that are more specific. So in this case, let's say it's random 1 to 2. And, or actually we can do like a random 0 to 2, and we can multiply this by 10, and watch what happens. So now what we're doing is we're limiting the range where we're saying, how many frames do we add here? There's 1, 2, 11, that's 20, 21, 22, 23. There's 23 frames. So 10, 20, it would just be right on the end. $14, $12. All right, so now what's going to happen is they're going to alternate. And that's a little bit more of what we're looking for. Because if we just did a random in between a certain number of frames, there's a good chance that randoms would be like tightly bunched together. So we get them where they would be like, they would just be going up at the same time. If you do random at like almost 50%, which is what you're seeing here, what's happening is either we're setting the random jump in the frame rate into 3 different groups. We're either going to start at the beginning, which is 0. We're going to start at frame 12, or we're going to start at frame 22, which is past the cycle of frames, and it's going to restart it. Which technically is probably, like, we should do is, well, whatever. It's going to be random. Like, this is never going to be, like, sort of perfect. But as we're seeing, like, if I keep rerunning this, we're not getting, like, it's very slim. As soon as I fucking said it, it's going to be very slim that they pop up together. But now, of course, they pop up together. But there we go. I mean, that's sort of what we're looking for. Again, these guys won't be on the same screen. So it's not that much of an issue. Maybe we would have multiple ones on the screen. I don't know. I mean, we can always do stuff like counters, where as we created them, they would... I'm going to set this to 8, which would be 16, and that would still give us some extra frames. So like that one started up, but that's fine. So now that's a little bit better. All right, we're going to do the same thing here. So for this turret, we would basically, right after configure animation, we would, let's see, 10, 15. There's only 15 frames. So let's set it to like 5. Never dance with chance, you'll lose. So there we go. So we're seeing that they're mostly random. Now, of course, they're not going to be like random at all. Unreal. Random sucks, by the way. Like you telling it to be random is just always going to be, it's always going to set you up for failure. But that's the general idea. If you have an animation and you want them to start at different parts of it, you just basically figure out what the frame rate is, or what groups of frames you want, and then just sort of go from there. All right, so I think that's good. We fixed the other thing that was bothering me, which was laying this guy out. Let's see, what else did we want to do? We could do let's do some bullets, right? I think that's the next step. All right, here's what we do. I'm gonna take a quick 5-minute break. I want to just go, is the random seeded? I have no idea how Lua does it. I don't know either. I don't think Lua seeds, it's random. Oh, there is a random. Look at that. There's a random seed. I have to admit, I like really don't. I like at a high level, I think I understand how random seed works, but I've never really used it. But generates pseudo random numbers uniformly distributed, supplying argument alters the behavior. So, whoops. I don't think I've ever really like done a good like random seed. All right, so let's set it to 1, 2, 3, 4, and let's just see what happens. That's amazing. It's the same combination as my luggage. Random seed. Yeah, but can I give it a range? Nah, forget it. We'll just do some basic stuff. Again, this is going to be like an introduction tutorial. Like, if I, like, getting into the whole, like, randomness and how random really doesn't work, and that's, like, beyond the scope of a beginner tutorial. What I want to do is, Right. You're right. That's what I was missing. See, my brain's not working today. Let's see if this does anything special. I mean, I can hardly tell the difference. I mean, the only thing that's going to make it is more predictable, right? Like if I got rid of this, it looks like there's probably more probability that they're going to all be together, but who knows? It's random. Who knows? See, by adding random seed, I'm going to have to explain. Yeah, same seed equals same numbers, right? All right, well, cool. I think we'll use that. I think that was a very good suggestion. So we'll add the random seed, and that will that'll make something happen. At least it'll make them more predictable in how their randomness is encountered. So if you're just tuning in, I'm just testing out adding bad guys back into the game. I was just about to start getting bullets working. So let's do this. I'm gonna go take a quick break. I need to get some water. I'm gonna take a quick 5-minute break, and then when I come back, we'll get each of the different types of bullets going, and then maybe we'll just do some basic shooting, and we'll see where we go. I think I have I could probably do until about 3 o'clock. I promised the boys we have the that new Nintendo, the Labo stuff, the cardboard stuff, and I really want to do that with them. And yeah, cool. All right, I'll be back in 5 minutes. Let's do this. You guys can watch this fun little animation, and I'm going to put up my message. What is it? We'll just do 1:20. That's 5 minutes. All right, I'll be right back. All right. So next up is bullets, right? Let's see. What did I even name these? Small shot. All right, so the bullets should be pretty easy. All we really need to do is we just do function. Actually, we'll just take one of these guys. This configure entity snake. We're gonna call this configure entity small shot, and its rect is going to be 8x8. We're going to use this later on for collision detection, but we'll configure some animation, and in this case what we're going to do is let's just change the formatting so it's easier to see. All right, so what did I call this thing? Small shot 1. Small shot 2, small shot 3, and small shot 4. All right, so and then all we're going to do is we're going to call move entity. And we're going to change this up a little bit here. We're going to look for on update, but instead what we'll do is actually, you know what? Let's what we probably should do is let's get the bad guys shooting first, and then we will then we get the players shooting. What I don't want to do is like I don't want to jump into like input and all that crap right away. I was just thinking about like how annoying these guys are going to be, the multi-cannon ones. All right, let's get let's hide this stuff. We're going to focus on just one at a time. And let's set this to, well, we'll do this like this. We'll set this to 80. And we're going to put him there. And he's going to pop up. And we're going to have him shoot a bullet. So we come back into our entities. Let's just copy this out. That's small shot. There'll be a large shot. Large shot, and then a small spike ball. And this is 16 by 16. So I just noticed a problem. I just noticed a problem that I'm going to have to fix with this, but we'll get into that when we do collision. We're going to have to make some a collision offset because the sprite is 16 by 16, right? But what we don't want to do is the sprite is 16 by 16, but we only want the collision area to be on the inside of it. So I'll deal with that when we build the collision system. This has 2 animations. So this is spike ball small and 2. Hold on, my wife just came home. Let me just message her, let her know I'm upstairs recording. All right, so all right, wife is home, and I can now focus on this, on the very important task of building video games and making sure my kids don't hurt themselves, as opposed to making sure my kids don't hurt themselves. All right, so small spike ball, we'll give it a speed of 1. We have its animations, and we're going to move the entity on every frame. So what we want to do is we're going to come up here to this. And configure entity turret. Oh, I said that really like the New York accent. Configure entity hidden turret. And what we're going to do is we're going to create something called a entity shoot flag equals false. And what we want to do is this. On update, if entity.frame equals, let's see, we're going to have to count this up now. So this is 15, 16, 17. If frame equals 17 and entity shoot flag equals false, then end print shoot. And then we're going to set entity shoot flag to true. And what we'll do here is if entity frame equals 1, then entity shoot flag equals false. So every time we get to the end, every time we get back to the first frame, we're just going to reset the shoot flag, and then the first time we hit 17, we're going to shoot. Now let's just test this out and see if this actually works. Or it breaks. Code entities 220. Code entities 22. What the fuck? Oh. All right. Try this again. All right. So you should come up, and what we should see is it'll print out shoot. Shoot. Perfect. All right. So in order for it to shoot, what we need to do is we're going to call the same thing we do before, which is spawn entity, and we're going to pass in the name, what is it, is a small spike ball. And watch this. This is where everything starts like coming together, and because we made the system, I wouldn't say like really modular, but just we made the system really clean. All we need to do is, let's do this as local, bullet equals spawn entity small spike ball, and we're going to set it to the entity.x, entity.y. We'll fix that in a minute. And when we call spawn entity, and we're going to pass in the entity.fliph value. So we're actually passing in, we don't even need this anymore. We can just call this directly. Since we're calling spawn entity, we are passing in the parent entity's X and Y position and its own fliph value. And because we're using fliph to decide whether we're going to the left or the right, it should automatically go in the right direction. And we're going to test this out real quick. So he's going to pop out and shoot that ball way up there. I don't know why that's even up there. That's strange. Entity X and entity... Oh, here's why. Rect.x. Entity rect.y. I forgot that I moved everything over to the rect. There we go. So that shoots. And here's what I want to do real quick. Let's just make sure that these bullets are going the right way. We're going to create 2 turrets, right? And we're going to set this one to true, which will flip the H value. We'll set this... this will be 80. This will be 120. Look at that. Look at how cool that is. That's awesome. This just makes me happy when this stuff actually works. What we want to do is on draw entity, update entities. We're going to just get the local. We're going to do print entities. I just want to keep track of the active entities. So we should see that over time this isn't increasing. It should be hovering at a certain level. So let's see. It's calling remove entities. So this is working. And we'll double check it right now. So you'll see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's only 5 entities at any one time. The maximum we're getting is 5 entities. All right, that's really good. All right, so let's stop this so it doesn't just infinitely go off and draw stuff. Let's see if we can even clear the log file. So this happened before. I think one of the things I got to do is I got to put a limit onto the log file. If the log file is too large like this, it locks up everything. I'm going to see if that runs in the background, but I'm going to file a bug for that. Pixelvision 8 game creator. Need to stream in the log file line by line or limit the size of the file when writing to it. I'm going to put that in the tool refinement. I don't want to fix that. I'm not going to have time to fix that before the next release. Is this still locked up? That's not good. I need to go find that build. Where's that build of Pixelvision 8 documents? Pixelvision. All right, so what I just want to do is let me clear this out. Let's quit this. That'll delete the log file, and we'll reopen up the game creator. And I should be using the new build. I was working on a new build last night and this morning. So building out these games usually helps me test out each of the builds. But all right, so this seems to be working now. And yeah, like I don't think this could work any better than it is right now. What I want to try to do is get that other turret going in. Now, that turret is a little bit challenging because I think the bullets are going to have to go up. And I don't know if I'm testing. Well, I am testing for things to go up off the screen. So let's take a look at how to build those turrets and see. There's also some like angular math I'm gonna have to figure out, which I sort of suck at. All what I'm hoping is that it's at a right angle so I can just keep adding an X and Y value to it. So let's do this. Let's come here and we're going to create a large shot, small shot. I'm going to call this a pellet shot, right? Is that how I spell define pellet? Yeah, there we go. That works. All right, so pellet shot. All we're going to do here is we're going to set, so when we do animation stuff, what we actually look at is we're going to look at the, actually it should be sprite data. We're not going to animate this guy. All we're going to do is create a, sprite data, and we're going to set sprite data equal to small shot 1. So I don't even have a specific, I mean, I could make one. Why don't we just make a, do I have room somewhere? I was thinking of just taking taking this out and moving it like here, but Andrew will hate this. I can't tell if I pissed him off yesterday. I always like take his artwork and then just like do what I feel like with it, and he never likes the way it comes out. I mean, he's right. Like, he's good. He's the artist, and I am, well, I am an artist, but that's like a whole other story. I don't really do art anymore. Small, spike ball small. So we're just gonna call this ball small, or small ball. Small ball. All right, so we'll save out our sprites, and then we're just going to call this small. Actually, we should call this small shot. Nah, small ball. I can fix the things later. I wish I could do pixel art. Yeah, I'm not. I mean, I have my background is in pixel art. Okay. Here's where we are going to modify. We had to modify our movement logic. So the other day I was thinking, like, oh, you know what I should do? Like, at the end of the day, after I build this stuff, I should write out the tutorials. But the other part of my brain's like, you should wait until you build the whole game just to see how everything works. And now, so yeah, I'm a self-taught programmer. All right, so what we want to do is we're going to do a very similar thing. Let's I think what I'm going to start doing is just keeping this stuff here. Test the hidden turret. Here we'll just test a regular turret. And set this to 90. All right, entities. So let's go and find where was our configure entity turret. So our hidden turret, we're going to do the same thing as we did here. We're basically going to do entity shoot flag equals 0 or equals false, and then on update, we're just going to paste this in, and we're going to change the values. So one thing I was thinking of doing was well, 15, 16, 17. I can just do this by hand. Like, again, I'm trying to make this stuff like more dynamic, but it's not worth the time. So basically, when we get to 11, frame 11 is the shoot. And when we get back to frame 1, we'll reset it. And all we're going to do here is we're going to call this small ball. And this is what this is where we're going to have to make some changes to the code. So if we run this right now, what did I call that bullet? Or did I not make the bullet? Small spiked ball, large shot, small shot. We'll call it pellet shot, and we'll I'll go back through and I'll clean up all the naming and stuff. Wow, doesn't like this idea at all, huh? Here's why. Doesn't have any sprite data to draw. Huh? Pellet shot. Spawn entity pellet shot. If shoot flag equals false. Entity shoot flag equals false. All right, let's get rid of this, and let's get rid of this. And what we're going to do is print. And just take a look at why this thing isn't printing. Shoot, shoot, shoot. All right, so it is shooting. So spawn entity pellet shot. Let's try a small shot. All right, so it just doesn't like this idea of the pellet shot, huh? Configure entity pellet shot. Sprite data. Draw entities. If it has a sprite data value. Small ball. Ah, I know why. So let's call it this. Let's rename this to the problems I didn't rebuild the sprite database. Let's call this pellet shot. Output everything. Pellet shot. And now here, we're going to set this to pellet shot. And now let's go and rebuild out the sprites. Right, we should have it right here. Perfect. There we go. All right, so what we want to do now is come up with a. Let me save this Pomodoro. All right. Funny enough, that this one thing. Let's create add all animations for entities. I feel like we did that. We are now spawning bullets. We're good to go there. We're just going to finish creating the entity and the animation code. All right. So, what what we need to do is change the way that we calculate movement. And we have a thing here called move entity. And what we're going to look at is there's going to be a speed along different axes. So up until this point, we only have a speed along one axis. And let's do this. We're going to replace... We're going to break everything, by the way. How exciting is that? We're going to change entity speed to new vector 1, 0. And what we'll do is we're going to give it speed along two axes. And let's replace all this. And now when we come in here, speed is going to be equal to I was just trying to figure out if there's a way I could for right now, let's just do this. Speed equals speed dot x. And we will apply that to the entity's x position. I just want to restart this and make sure that nothing is broken, like it is right now. Code entities line 7. Attempt to index a number value. Well, all of these should be... Oh, I'm an idiot. Why didn't this... All right, so this was 2. All right, all this is 1, and then what we want to do here is change speed x to 0 and rerun it. There we go. Okay, so on the surface, nothing really changed. What we are going to do now is go back in and on certain entities, so for example here, let's go to our small pellet, our pellet shot, and we're going to set, well, we're actually not going to do anything on this. We're going to change it here. We're going to do local bullet 1 equals spawn entity, blah, blah, blah. Leave it as is. We're going to set its speed x to equal 1 and bullet 1 dot speed y to equal 1. Actually, no, we want the x to be, the first shot we wanted to go straight up. So it's not going to move along the x-axis. It's only going to move along the y-axis. This is where it starts getting a little bit weird. So we're going to call this speed x. No, what we need is... we don't want to calculate this every frame. So we want to convert the local delay equals delay, and speed is going to equal, so this is speed x. Well, why don't we just do this here? Speed x multiplied by delay multiplied by direction. Let's see if this still works. All right, so it's not going to move along that x-axis at all, right? Now, if we come here and we add in rect y, 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 and direction X, direction Y. We don't really even have a direction Y, so I don't know. I'm gonna write this out, just see sort of what we're doing here, and then I'll figure out how to simplify this, because it's already becoming a little bit more convoluted than I really want it to be. Like, because technically there should be 1 and -1, and we should just go with that. All right, so now we have it shooting that ball up. What I want to make sure is happening is that the entity is being removed properly. Print. So we'll just see what's going on when it we'll reload that and just make sure the shot. Remove entity nil. Remove entity nil. I don't know why that's entity nil. It is removing something. Why would entity type? That's why. All right, so it's removing the pellet shot, and that seems to work really well. So, all right, so the first thing I want to do is let's change where the spawn happens. So this is we're spawning this bullet. We're changing this. We're going to make its entity X plus 4. And let's see if it just looks like it's in the right place. There we go. Right? So now the next step is we want to make a bullet that just shoots at an angle. So in this case, we're going to create a bullet 2. And we're going to set that to 1, 1. And we're going to set this to 8. And we'll just take a look at where that goes next. There we go. So I just want to set him to 0, 0 and just get him to spawn at the right place. And then we'll go from there. All right. So it needs to be 8, 12 plus 4. Yeah, this actually wasn't that hard. There we go. Boom. All right, that looks pretty good, right? So we have that shot, and what we're making sure is that it's removing these entities correctly. This is so cool. When this stuff actually works, you know, out of all these years, I've never really sat down and made a Mega Man game. And Mega Man is one of my favorite games ever. And I've always just felt like it was just too hard to make. And for some reason, it actually isn't. 1, 1. Also, I have like 30 years of making games under my belt that like I can sort of understand how this stuff works. We're going to set his speed Y. Well, we'll leave his X will be negative, and his Y will remain positive. I have a feeling like this is all completely flipped. And all right, so what we want to do is entity X plus 4. Let's do 0, 0. All right, I want to move this over -4. And see if that works. All right, cool. So what we're going to do is 1, 1, and what we'll do is -1. There we go. So now it's shooting out in multiple directions. The one thing I've noticed though is that the center one looks like it's going slower than the other ones, even though they're all going at the same speed. I wonder if changing this to 2 will make it, it'll just give it a little bit more variety. But honestly, like keeping it at 1 is what it is. All right, let's do this. Let's try animating this. I'm going to go back here and set the player speed back to 1. And let's set the turret to 160 so it's just off screen, and reload it and see what happens. Oh, look at it. It's so good. It works so well. It's amazing. Like when you build these like really like simple systems and you just start adding like pieces and pieces on top of it, it all like eventually clicks, just like we're seeing like right now. All right, so there's something in here that's bothering me, and what I want to do is what I can't tell is how I want to deal with the speed X and the speed Y based on its flip horizontal or vertical. So what we're doing is what I'm kind of thinking of doing is just making it where you pass in I don't know. I have to think about this. I think for Y, we're just not going to take into account the direction. We'll just multiply it by the delay. So we can get rid of this. Get rid of this. And I feel like that messed up the whole Y thing. So right, if flip V is true, we would want it to go the opposite direction. All right, yeah, we're gonna leave it like this. I'll explain. I'll just have to explain how this works, and I'll add in the Y value sort of later and why I use a vector. But I mean, this is just what did I do here? Oh right, I took out the multiply by direction Y. So in essence, what we should do is when I spawn these things, this should be set to 1. And entity flip, we're going to set this to true. We're going to set this to false. We don't want this. We don't want these bullets to inherit the direction of this spawner. In fact, it doesn't even matter because we're not going to flip this spawner. It doesn't have a different direction, but we're going to force it. We're going to force the direction. The last thing I wanted to do here was I want the math.absolute value of speed x, which is a little bit more math than I would normally do, but what I want to make sure is that since we are taking into account the direction x and the direction y, we should never be allowed to add a negative speed. So whatever you set the speed to will be the absolute value. So if you set to -5, it'll just be 5. All right, let's run this and take a look. All right, shooting, it looks good. Man, it's coming together. This is like, I wish I had made it this clean when I wrote it in for Ludum Dare. But Ludum Dare was a good, like the reason, so if you're just tuning in and sort of wondering what the hell I'm doing, this is a game I wrote for Ludum Dare. It's a hot mess right now. I have like lots of bugs in it and it just didn't come out very well. Look and feel I sort of nailed, but there's some pretty like show-stopping bugs in it. And what I wanted to do is I started rebuilding it from scratch. I was thinking of fixing it, but the conclusion I came to is that it's just, I don't know, we're like a week into voting and I don't even care. I know the game wasn't like, this isn't my best outing. And while it's cool, it really didn't like capture the theme the way I'd wanted. So I just decided, you know, it's not worth updating. I'm just going to rebuild the game from scratch. And I learned a lot. And the reason why I use Ludum Dare is to just experiment to come up with game ideas. So, all right, here we go. So we have, we now have shooting working. Our turrets are working. I was actually really afraid of doing that, but that came out really well. That spawns our regular turret. let's do a test snake spawn entity snake 160 88 plus 8. I should probably just figure out what that is. Calculator 96. I knew that. I knew that. Don't judge. Suck at math. Right? So that'll give us our snake, then moves off screen. And the other one we needed was the hardhead guy. There's our hardhead guy. All right, so where do we want to do next? We could try to do physics. Let's get the player to shoot, and then we will... we'll get the player to shoot, and then we'll come up with what we want to do after that. So I'm going to leave that as this. I just want to make sure these hidden turrets still work correctly. And they came out really cool too. It's nice. It's nice. All right. So what I want to do next is just trying to think in my head where I want to put the player logic. I got like about an hour left that I could stream for. So here's our player. What we're going to do on update is, let's do this. We're going to look for if button A released, and this will be his controller 0, then end. And we're just going to spawn entity, what did I even call this thing? Small shot. And let's just set this to the player, entity rect X, entity rect Y, entity flip H value. Right, so whenever we hit the A button, in theory, we're going to shoot. Line 50. Attempt to index a function value. I have to button state. I can't remember any of the input stuff in my own game engine, which is sort of embarrassing. Pixel Vision 8. Let's go look at the docs. Where is it? API, Lua API cheat sheet. Function. Button, state, controller. So button, state. Oh, it should be input state. That's what it was. Input state is the enum. I need to do a better way. I need to do a better job of documenting this. Input state released. Cool. All right, so what the fuck? Button A. Yeah, it's buttons is the enum. All right. So if we hit, so hitting the X key is going to output our buttons, right? And it's a lot of buttons. There's a lot of bullets. I think that works out well. What we want to do now is we just got to move it to the right position. So what I'm going to look to do is let's figure out where his gun is. And we'll set this to 2413. Plus 13. You're probably asking, like, oh, why don't you just set it to 2413? Well, we're going to take the player's position in the screen and offset it by the value of where that bullet should go. All right, we'll reload, and now if I shoot, it's a little far out. Let's make this 16. And a little too low, so let's make that 10. 12. There we go. Perfect. All right, so that's now our bullet. Looking good. All right, so the next thing really is, do I have time to get into the physics engine? Oh, I know what I want to do. I want to do spawning. All right, let's do spawning, and then we'll call it a day. I'll do physics another day. Maybe I'll sneak away tomorrow for like 2 hours and do some. I'll try to do some streaming in the morning, because technically, the game there's not much more to build to the game. Collision is pretty straightforward. Physics. The physics one I wanted to spend some time really working on. Even though this game was an endless runner, I got to stand for a second, so you're going to hear the mic move. Even though the physics for this game are pretty simple, what I wanted to do was rebuild the physics, and instead of doing it, I want to make the player be able to walk around on the screen. One of the things I was asking Andrew, 2D Heroes, who did the artwork here, is we're going to come up with a sort of... we're coming up with a little like Mega Man bad guy generator. So you'll have like, you'll be able to decorate a Mega Man sort of body shape with different elements in order to create different bad guys. And what I wanted to do is that the Endless Runner is that once you get to a boss battle, the screen stops scrolling, and then it becomes like a regular Mega Man where you run around the screen, you shoot, and then when it's done, it goes back into a side scroller. And so you'd have it like broken up by like mini boss battles. Not sure how I'm gonna do that, but you know what? Having extra scope is always a fun addition. So let's see. What I want to do now is let's figure out spawning. Spawning is pretty straightforward. We can. The way that I had done spawning previously was that actually I want to save. I want to save this real quick here. Let's just save this as V3. And, all right. So, sandbox. Do I have a tile map? All right, I haven't built a tile map yet. So let's go here, and we're going to generate out. I think the sprites are done. Like, as far as I'm concerned, I think this is all of the sprites you need to make a Mega Man game. So I think Andrew is going to clean up. Andrew's cleaning up some of this stuff, and he's adding. He didn't like the way that I did the outline and stuff, and I don't blame him. I mean, I just did it how I felt like doing it. So he's more of the expert. He's going to finish that up. But what I was trying to get to is this notion of like what I want in Pixel Vision 8, which is the game engine I'm using. This is what I wrote. That you could start it. You have a collection of built-in art packs, and then you just basically say, oh, you know, I want to build a Mega Man game. I don't want to worry about artwork. I just want to build the game itself, and then I'm going to do tutorials on like, here's how you build Mega Man, here's how you build Metroid. And a lot of them will share the same elements. Like Mega Man and Metroid and probably even the Mario game are going to be endless runner type games. And then it'll be up to you to sort of modify it and build out your own logic. Maybe what I'll do is I'll come up with different variations of features inside the endless runner. But those endless runners seem to be pretty straightforward games. And yeah, I mean, my goal by the end of the year is to have a nice set of like tutorials that show you like how to build these games that, you know, if you're like me, you grew up with playing. And they're not that hard. You'd be really surprised. Like, it didn't take me very long to build Mega Man over the weekend. All right, so what we want to do is let's comment this out. I want to... what do I want to do? So, all right, we're going to generate out a tile map JSON file. And basically, when you come into the tile map thing, you hit compress, it takes the PNG and turns it into a JSON file that the tile map editor can use. And it also goes in and it compresses the artwork. So since I have the flag set to, oh, excuse me. Hold on, all right, this is saved. Let's get rid of this. I don't know what this, let's delete this real quick. Move to trash. So it created this sprite cache file, but since I'm not optimizing the sprites, it didn't really do much. It didn't really do much to save on space. So that being said, let's go ahead and open up Tiled. And I'm just going to open this up one more time just to make sure I'm in the right file. Sandbox. Tile map. Here we go. All right. So what we're going to do for spawning is we're going to use a different flag. And in fact, what I'm kind of curious to see about doing is, let's go here to the flags, and I'm going to change these colors. So this is something that I just added into the engine, which was to, we'll make that black. We're going to make this green. And we'll make this red. We'll make this like a light blue. All right, we'll leave it at that for right now. What I was trying to do is get into something where you can custom build out the the color flags. And if we come here to the flags, you're not going to see the changes here because I need to add it in the tile map, but I just wanted to make sure that it was still loading correctly. So if, for example, I came in here and went to the first tile and set this flag to 1, it'll be this dark gray. Let's just hit save real quick. Whoa, null object. Interesting. I gotta file that bug. Changed flag colors, loaded up tile map, had a JSON file already built, and got a null error when hitting save. Let's see why did that so that actually just reminded me that there's one weird like little disconnect. If you hit save, it's supposed to generate out a PNG. So that's a critical bug that I have to fix. What I want to see though is why can't I get this to actually flag 1? Wow. Also fails to save when hitting compress. All right, commit. I think changing these collision flags screwed everything up. Let's do this. Let's delete this, and move the trash. Let's rebuild this for a second. I've not been finding like a lot of bugs in Pixel Vision 8, but this one's kind of bothering me. Maybe I broke something when I save. All right, that worked. Let me hit compress. And that should now create a new flags PNG. Now let me try saving this to 0 and hit save. Interesting. Compress. We'll restart this and let's see if it still saved this value as 0. All right, so what I'm seeing, the problem is it looks like it's something to do with if I change the, that should only be there. Let's see if we change the flag to red. Save this. Sorry, this is a little bit of a tangent. I just want to make sure that I want to make sure that I am finding bugs and I'm able to fix them, because this is critical. This is the whole reason why I make games on top of it, outside of just liking to make games. All right, so this is set to, let's set this to 1 and save it. There we go. There's, all right, so the error, all right, so this only happens when when the flags PNG file is not set to the default colors. All right, so I know how to track that down, and that's fine. All right, so let's do this. Let's go back here. Let's save this, close this out, and now in the let's close this and open up tiled. All right, so what we're going to do is let's just pick a different tile color. This is ID 7. This should be what? ID 0, ID 7. So what we're going to do is we're going to, in the flag layer, we're going to just draw, actually I want to do this in a little bit. We're going to draw the area where it is safe to spawn an object. In fact, what I always want to do is, before we get too far, let's just do this on the first one. So I'm going to save this out as an image. Oh, let me erase this tile. Actually, I don't even need to save it out as an image because I'm in the middle of editing it, and now it'll just use this as the flag. So let's reload the tool. Let it generate out the tile map, and then we're going to generate out the flag layer. And we should now see, we now have this gray area. So this should be flag 8, flag 0, flag 8. Now, what's kind of weird was, yeah, flag 8, okay. All right, perfect. So what we're going to do with flag 8 is, as we go through and generate out a new column of tile map sprites, we're going to look to see if something should be spawned. Hold on I just got to close my door. All right, so let's take a look at how we can actually put this into our code. On our map generator, we have some stuff going on. What we're going to look for is update map buffer, copy tile data. All right, so we're going to add a custom method here that's going to basically call a callback for us. What we're going to do is copy tile data. So here we're going to copy over this data. And we paste it in. So get a reference to the templates tile. So we get the source tile, we get the base tile. Now, there's one of two ways that we can go about doing this. What we could do is create a new method, a new global function that will set the tile and just route everything through that. Or we can just do a callback. I think I'm going to go with the first option. So let's do this. What we're going to do is create a new function, and we're going to call this process tile, and we're going to pass it in the column, the row. In fact, what we'll do is we'll just do end. We're going to call tile, and we'll pass in all this data. But this is what we're getting here. And I'll show you sort of how simple. This is one of the things I do like about Lua. All we got to do now is just change this value here. And we will now be routing the tile map generator through this method here on the root. So if let's go here and let's remove the player speed and run this. What we're going to see is the player is going to run. Let's actually slow the player down. Now you can see the importance of why you want to actually have things running at different speeds, because the player is running at the same speed as the bullet. Generally, the bullets will move faster than everything else in the game. All right, so what we're seeing is everything is running as it's supposed to be running. The next thing we want to do is take a look at the flag ID here, right? And what we can do is just trying to think of how I want to handle spawning. There's two ways that we can handle spawning. We can either make a we can either associate each flag with an enemy type, or we could sorry, I feel like yawning. Or we could originally we had this as part of the templates. Stitch templates together. What we really want to figure out is when we're at a new template. All right. What I think we're going to wind up doing is passing in a reference to the template, and as we go through and as we go through and build out the map, we're going to keep track of a few things. So let's just do this. Right now, all we're going to do is call, we'll call spawn snake at this position. So if flag equals 8, then end, and we're going to spawn the snake entity at column multiplied by 8, row multiplied by 8 minus 16, which is the height of the snake, and we're going to set it to go left. So let's see if this is going to spawn like a shit ton of snakes. Look at that. So many snakes. It's so many snakes, and we hit the you're seeing the flicker going on there. We hit the sprite limit for this system. So for the Game Boy, it's set to 4. We should actually set this to -8. All right, so this is the problem that we have right now, is where it's spawning too much stuff, and we got to come up with a way of limiting this. So one of the ways I was doing it before was I was actually having the template keep track of spawning. But what I think I want to do to sort of simplify things is that what I like in the template is that you have this area where you can spawn, but it doesn't really... We should just have like a general spawner. Like every so often, it will try to create a new object. And so what we can do here is we can keep track of the attempts. So let's do this. We'll do local spawn tile, or well, spawn chance, spawn time equals 0. Local spawn delay equals 10. So every 10 columns, it will try to spawn something new. If for some reason it can't do that, we'll decide what we want to do, but we could basically reset it. So let's do this. So spawn time equals spawn time plus the column, right? Because we're going one column at a time. Then there's a spawn delay. So if spawn time is greater than spawn delay, then end, and we reset the spawn time. And what we could do is something more like this. In essence, what we're doing is we're saying that, okay, so increase spawn time by the column. This is spelled wrong. Spawn time. Check to see if we can spawn and on a spawn tile. And I ran into this bug when I was actually doing Ludum Dare. So what I want to do is we only increase the spawn timer when we hit this flag. If spawn timer and delay, then reset. All right, this was, I ran into this problem before. Basically, we don't want to count every column. That doesn't make any sense. We only want to count columns that contain a spawn. When we're within a spawn zone, then we increment. And we can also change this. We can also do some variation, and I'll show you in a minute how we change the spawn time variation, because we can do some random stuff to make that sort of better. Let's go here and let's see now. That's still spawning too many guys. Why is it spawning? If the flag is 8, we're going to take the spawn time and add spawn time plus column. If spawn time is greater than spawn delay, then spawn the snake and reset spawn time to 0. I feel like it's not even doing anything. So no snakes. Now lots of snakes. Why is it spawning so much stuff? But it shouldn't, that shouldn't be spawning so much. Why? I know I'm bad at math, but I'm not that bad at math. Why would spawn time equal, if spawn time equals 0, that would reset the spawner. All right, it's the spawn time isn't getting reset. When we spawn the snake, it should reset the spawn timer to equal 0. Here's the problem. We need to just increment it by 1. The column is always going to be increasing, so it's once it gets past a certain point, it's just going to spam us with snakes. One, 2. All right, we're getting closer. 3. All right, so let's set this down to like 10, right? And we should get like a little bit more variation into what can actually be spawned. But sometimes you're going to get to areas where there's just, well, why is it not spawning anything now? Oh, I know why. Not everything has, not every template has a spawn area now. All right, and then the other thing we can do is something like this. So we could do math random 0 to 5, which would change the, it would give you some sort of fluctuation between how you're spawning. See, like 2 snakes came up, and stuff like that. All right, so that worked. Let's see what else. So that allows us to spawn some stuff. I think what I want to do is set the flag value to be what type of thing to spawn. I don't know. What I wanted to avoid last time, what wound up happening was like I had this like gigantic, where's the tile map stuff, code map templates. I had this like gigantic map that like had like what could be spawned in it, what couldn't be spawned in it, and it just sort of got like really frustrating to use. What I wonder if I could do this. I'm gonna try to change the flag colors again, and I won't be able to. I'll be able to save this. You know, there's a place where I have like a really good set of these color offsets. I'm trying to figure out where I put that example. It should be online in the game creator. demos, UI framework demo, colors. No, it should be in the color map. Let's download this. Or copy the image, whatever you feel like doing today. I had like a, yeah, whatever. I just have like a good set of colors that I can use here. Well, that didn't work how I wanted it to. Come on. Basically, I'm just going to come up with some different colored flags, and what I need to do on my end is this will be a good thing to force me into fixing these bugs. Move this by 800. So the tiled is going to work no matter what, because it doesn't really it doesn't take into account the different. It doesn't care about the color flags. Tiled is using IDs. So what's going to happen is if I come in here to tiled now, you'll see I now have all these colors. So watch this. So if I come here and I, isn't there one that lets me select all the types and I change it to red? Or I just delete it, whatever. Okay, so the only problem I have with this, hey, new to the stream, looking for someone who knows what they're doing to learn from. Hope that's you. Yeah, well, I know something. I can make some games. All right, so I just realized one little problem here. If we use one color per enemy type, what winds up happening is we don't have variation in the enemies. So I think I have to go back to my original approach. So let's do this. I'm gonna go through all the tile maps, and we're gonna create all the flags that are valid for. What engine do I use? Good question. So I am using my own game engine called Game Creator. It's called Pixel Vision 8, and these are the tools for running it. But I use Unity mostly, and this is actually built on top of Unity. So the core framework is open source. It's all C#, and I built some tools on top that allow you to make games. All right, I'm going to, just to speed things up, I'm just going to copy this over to everything. Oh, I see what I did wrong here. And then I'll go in and clean this up. I want to get a baseline for where you can spawn and where you can't. So it's Unity app that's a game engine. Yeah, basically I built a fantasy game console on top of Unity, and the only thing I'm using in Unity, the whole engine, Pixel Vision 8 runs in C#. The only thing I'm using Unity for is to display and cross-compile it. I don't really use anything inside of Unity to make this work. So it's a little convoluted. If you're just getting started, this isn't or at least not until I have the documentation done. It's not easy for beginners because there's a lot of theory. But what I wanted to do is build a game engine that better emulated what Nintendo games, like what actual like old hardware ran like. And because of that, I came up with this. Let's see. I'm going to select, what is the shortcut for the rectangle? Let's just move this here. Doesn't like that idea, huh? But for the most part, like when I build my own games and stuff, I usually just use Unity. At some point, I'm going to move off of Unity. It's so buggy and problematic. I hate like wasting my time with it, but that's like a whole other conversation. All right, so my thinking is this. We're going to go back to how I had this set up during Ludum Dare, where there will be some safe zones to spawn stuff, but I'm going to tell each template what it's allowed to spawn in order to keep it, in order to make sure that you don't spawn like a snake in a place that has, in a snake that has a place that has pits. So what I realized was I don't want to have to build out logic for when the snake moves, it looks to see if there's the edge of a pit and turn around, because this is an endless runner. Everything moves forward. Also, you could do that and make it easier to make games, because there are many complicated things in Unity that could be simple for 2D games. Yeah, well, I've sort of streamlined this to work specifically for building 2D games, but it's just a fantasy console. It's very similar to Pico 8. I'd say it's a more advanced version of Pico 8, and what you're just tuning into is I'm taking one of my Ludum Dare games that I did last weekend, and I'm cleaning it up and rebuilding it. All right, so we now need to, we'll save this. We'll come into here. We're going to look at the flags, and what we want to make sure is this is 8. Why is this not booting up correctly? It should be using flag 1 now. There we go. All right, now it's rebuilt. All right, so now it's using flag 1. So what I have to fix in the game engine is that it can, it'll use this red color. So is that the game? Here's the game right here. Jump and Shoot Man is the game. And yeah, I just been rebuilding it. This is like, it's sort of broken, so don't look right now. Let me actually, when we start the game, let's hide some of this debug code. Let's hide these turrets. And now when we run, it won't be spawning anything because it doesn't know which ID to look for. So now we're looking for flag 1. And the only other thing that I want to do is I was trying to figure out how what we're going to do is we're going to add an extra field here, and we're going to call this entities. And what we're going to do is we're going to pass in, when we go to spawn, we're going to do math, we'll do entities.math.random. What does that just do? Entities math.random 1 total entities. So I haven't been doing a really good job of explaining it because I'm sort of crunched on time. I told my boys I'd hang out with them, so I have like 20 minutes left. But long story short, is like, imagine the game engine, Pixel Vision 8 is built in C#, so it runs in Unity, it runs in Monogame, it runs in anything that'll run C#. And then I built a separate set of tools, a self-contained sort of debug and emulator for it that loads up everything and does project management, and then allows you to write in Lua. So I'm actually scripting everything in Lua. All right, so what we want to do is in these templates, entities, snake. So let's do this. I'm going to add the snake to every single one of these. And let's just see if this randomly spawns. So we're going to have to pass in the current on every time we process the a tile. We're going to pass in the valid entities that we can use, and then later I'll go back in and sort of limit which entities to actually spawn. Process tiles. So what we're going to do is look for the current template, which is really just an ID. And at the end of this thing here, we're just going to pass in entities, right? So, so now we're going to, I can get rid of this, get some more screen space back. So when we go to process the tile, we're passing the column, the row, the ID, the color offset, the flags, and we're passing in the current map templates entities table. So now if we come in here and we run the game, it should just spawn a bunch of snakes on all these templates, right? And it's randomly spawning them and everything seems to be good. So the next thing what we're going to do is let's limit what we can spawn. So I think that the next step would be something like this. Let's just take this. We're going to find and replace, and we're going to put every entity type in here. So where are my examples? We have snake, we have hardhead, we have a turret, we have a hidden turret. Right, so those are the three types of enemies. I don't think I had anything else, did I? We have the hidden turret, the turret, snake, and the hardhead. All right. So now let's come back here into our map templates, and we're going to hit replace all. And now if we come back and we run the game, yeah, this is going to be good. This will be the perfect way to end this day's stream. So now we're going to get all kinds of stuff that just pops up randomly. Oh, it looks so good. It looks so good. I made Mega Man. So happy. When things actually work, like, it makes me happy. When they don't work, it makes me angry. I'm exactly like my 5-year-old. All right. And then there's some things that we could do. Like in this case here, you know, again, you know, well, let's see. We have a random seed. I wonder if it's going to randomly generate at the same time. So that's a hidden, a shooter, a hidden. A shooter, a hidden. Wait, a hidden, a shooter, a hidden. A hidden, a shooter, a hidden. All right, so here's the problem. Now that we have the random seed, it's just gonna. I had to take the random seed out. As much as it makes it like. The problem with the random seed is that it's going to make you have the same game every time. Although what we could do is we could randomly generate the seed. We can randomly generate the seed, and then you could replay that level. That's some fun stuff. So let me do this. Generating the seed and saving it for replay. All right. One of the things I'm going to be adding eventually is leaderboards and all that kind of stuff. And so my day job is I'm an evangelist at Amazon, and I'm helping promote one of our new products, Game On. And what I'm going to be doing with that is it allows us to add leaderboards and real-world competitions. So there's some cool stuff that we're going to do with that. And that's sort of what I'm building this game out, is to have sort of a proof of concept of some of these leaderboard kind of stuff. All right, so this is random now. We're getting a little bit more variety. If I rerun this, we won't see the same things. But I've gotten rid of the random seed. All right, so this is looking good. What we would just do now is go through each of the templates and basically keep them from generating stuff that we wouldn't want to be generated. So like in levels like that where we had like a lot of where we have like a lot of gaps, we wouldn't want like anything that walks or jumps to be spawned in that area. Mostly because we're not going to do any physics on them. But all right, I think this is where I'm going to end. I mean, I can go through real quick into these into this tile map and tell it like say, all right, so let's see, 2 and 3 we would only want turrets. So on oops. Yeah, on 2 and 3 we would only want turrets. So 6 we'd only want turrets as well. 5, 6. 14, 13. Let's do this in order. So 10 and 11, we'd only want turrets. And then 13 and 14. All right, I'll close out this Pomodoro in a second. What I just wanted to get to was let's run this. Let's actually make the player run at his normal speed. And boom. So we get into something like this. I feel like that's actually like too fast. It might have to be just at 1. But there we go. I mean, we got the basic core mechanics of the game. In fact, now the way that this even works is that we don't even have to hey Elise. Let's see. Sorry, Elise, he's deaf, so I just wanted to type out to him real quick. So okay, so basically, this is what. Oh, so I was saying is like it doesn't even have to be an endless runner. What I'm probably going to wind up doing is something where if we run to the left, it'll fill in the buffer. And what I'll probably do at the end, so like I'm planning this on being like a little book for the game engine and how to build like an endless runner with it. What I would do is at the end, after you build the endless runner, be like, hey, not only does this work for an endless runner, but you could also just go in any direction and get rid of the endless runner part and just make it where if you move to the left, we would what we would do is if you go to the left, we'll just buffer back in the stuff, and we would keep a history of the level that gets generated. And there's all kinds of like cool stuff. Like once you have these buildings, like that's the one thing that I'm pretty good at when it comes to making games and tutorials is once like I'm really good at building these little building blocks. And once you have the building blocks, you just put them all together like Legos, and you wind up with a pretty good game. So speaking of building blocks and stuff like that, I'm gonna end the stream, and let's just close all this stuff out. I'm gonna save this. We created spawn code, and we're good to go. The only things we need to do next is collision, physics. We did collision, physics is next. The HUD bar. and some other stuff. So we'll come back and I'll deal with that stuff later. So great. Thanks everyone for watching. I'll try to do a little streaming tomorrow. I don't really know if I can. And I'm gone next week. I will be streaming on Monday, but I won't be but I'll be gone the rest of the week because I'll be in Seattle. So, but I probably will just like mess around with this game and get it sort of working. So, cool. Thanks everyone for watching. I will see you guys another day.